We have class sizes that are in the range of 30 in our middle school and high school. We've reduced substantially music and art, technology, libraries, world cultures. So the question is, what do you do? $885,000. Now, the news with additional Chapter 78, if North Reading received that aid, and that's where I believe that organizations such as North Reading United for Children and Stand for Children, or North Reading United for Education and Stand for Children, play a very key role, because their voices are very loud, not just loud as clanging cymbals, but they're loud so that people hear. They need to hear the problem. And so if the governor's budget came true and we were to receive, the school department was to be the beneficiary of additional Chapter 70 money, it would add about another, beyond what we're already projecting for Chapter 70, would add another $600,000. And so we have another available funds budget. And it's based on the governor's budget. It's a budget that is 4.4% increase, $918,000. Still falling short of the status quo by just under $300,000. So the task before us is, number one, which budget do we believe? And number two, what kind of plans do we make? The school committee, as they prepare for town meeting, by the end of February, will need to vote on a budget. I think we need to be talking about the restoration budget, and I think we also need to be talking about the improved quality. So a restoration budget is a budget that takes everything that was reduced this year and puts it back. And in order to do that, it would be a budget of over $1.7 million. More than the amount of money that we have, or over FY08. And so we begin to do these comparisons. The improved quality budget, and here's where we have to have some discussion, because it is very important to remember, by restoring, in the restoration budget, it restores art and music and library and technology, restores the programs that we lost. It does not deal with class size. It keeps 9 or more, or it would require 9 or more classroom teachers. It does not add a health program in our middle school. It does not address issues of special education and inclusion. Our restoration budget does not address the requirement to have English as a language, as a second language, or ELL teachers. It does not deal with issues of supervision, growing needs in our elementary schools for assistance. It does not put in freshman sports, and with the rapidly increasing high school, we run the prospect of turning kids away. So we have an available funds budget with a lot of uncertainty. We have a status quo budget that we can calculate that out. We know how much it costs. We have a restoration budget, which puts back the things that were cut. And then we have an improved quality budget. The improved quality budget also helps to focus on literacy. This is a key part. This lays the foundation for learning. So we have some very hard choices. We're right back to where we were last year on tough choices and tough times. The budget forums are going to put out some scenarios, and we'll talk about restoration and improved quality and get some feedbacks. And I know there's discussion about the Wednesday afternoons. We have to hear about that, but we need to know more about what that means and what it means in terms of what we're not getting and what we're not providing for students and the risk that that will cause.
I think one other area of explanation when David, first of all, it's the governor's budget, it's preliminary budget. Second, and the selectmen have been pretty fair with us over the years, especially a couple of years ago when they found some money to help us get through a budget crisis. But on the town side, we're losing, they're projecting, what increase, Carl, in lottery aid?
The amount that the governor is proposing is over $200,000 less than we're expecting.
Right. So while you see $600,000 more on Chapter 70, you see a $200,000 reduction in lottery aid. It's a little bit of robbing from Peter to pay Paul here, kind of, in a way. And so we still have to work through, as Dr. Troughton talked about, the Finance Planning Committee meetings, dealing with the selectmen. Our hope would be the governor's budget sails through, we get all that Chapter 70 money, and it reduces our problem. We still have a problem, but it reduces our problem, or it would reduce the amount of the override we have to seek. Mr.
Well, I think there are a couple of things to face. First of all, the governor's budget is giving North Reading a boost because it bases numbers on enrollment data that is 2 years old. It's always done that. We're always playing catch-up in North Reading. Our children are always shortchanged by the way the formula is structured. We are getting extra money in this budget, not because North Reading has been singled out for special favor, but because we haven't gotten it in the past. They're just catching up with us. And we need to remember that and hold the legislature's feet to the floor on this, because this is money that our children are long overdue. We should not be expecting this to be cut. We should be insisting that this be the very minimum that comes to our children. And face it, there was no reason that a Democratic governor would have favored us with a Republican senator and a Republican representative. It's just the application of the formula finally catching up what our children deserve. So frankly, I think we should expect and assume that this will be the minimum that comes to this, from the state to North Reading. As far as the lottery is concerned, and I think it's worth commenting on that, I think looking at the governor's overall budget, there are shortages in the lottery revenues this year, and that's why every city and town in the Commonwealth is slated to get less money from the lottery. And the governor is proposing to make it up with the casinos. And so he's spread the pain right across every city and town in the Commonwealth. I think that's a political move to get support from the legislature for the casinos. Whether the legislature chooses to endorse the casinos or not, they can still make up the gap in lottery revenues if they wish by finding some other source of funds. The governor has not touched any of the rainy day funds, and so there are other revenues. But I think the casino money is also being made attractive by the governor because he's only using about about 123 million for local aid, and he's projecting that there would be some, I think, 300 million available. And if the legislature wanted to endorse the casino program, that would also give them another place to find additional monies. I don't know what will happen on that side. I'm not concerned about it. The 619,000 is geared for our children. It's based on the formula that has existed, and we should be expecting it for our children.
Any questions, comments?
I think the question that I have for the committee is one of direction. I feel some level of responsibility to begin to take these available funds budget, based on the projected revenue, or we've agreed in our finance planning team that that's the baseline. That gives 300,000 more to FY09, which means comparing status quo to available funds budget 1 is a decrease of 885,000. I cannot, in June, working with the principals and Carl, make a cut of that magnitude and expect to open school in September in an efficient way. So at some point, there's going to be the need to outline and identify reductions or increased revenue, whether that's through user fees or other mechanisms, just short of $1 million. I think it's also possible to take this new information, even though it's not a voted information, and the Superintendent's Association has sent out caution in terms of using that number, the governor's budget, because there's a number of months of discussions. But even with that level of additional money, it is still going to mean some level of either reduction or increased revenue of around $300,000.
David, I think we have to have an available funds budget on the warrant, correct?
You need a number.
Right.
We need to be able to explain what that number would do.
Right.
And the finance committee will come in with that number, whether we do or not. We
Right.
have to be able to explain what that would do.
Now, I would, even though I hear the caution from the superintendents around the state, and I read a lot of caution in the newspapers about the governor's budget, I'd like to see us put together the available funds to budget, which is a $267,000 decrease, and see what that would entail. And then if we're going to go for an override, I'd say I would support a restoration budget figure, but not necessarily restoring everything that we've lost. In other words, we have to look at class sizes. I just think in the economic times we're in, you know, if we looked at asking for almost a 15% increase in our budget over last year, I think the chances are slim and none to get that kind of increase. And I think we have to be realistic at the economic times that we're facing right now. And the committee like to give their preferences?
Well, I'll reiterate what I said in the last meeting. I think the bare minimum should be the restoration budget, but I also think we have to look at the improved quality budget. And what I did at the last meeting was I asked the superintendent to provide us with some recommendations that he would have, particularly addressing class size, and particularly addressing class size at the secondary schools. I think we're on a slippery slope. I mean, look at the consequences of the reductions we had to make for this fiscal year. And to restore, we're going to need I don't think there's any question we're going to need some type of an override or some other revenue infusion to just get back to the restoration budget.
Right.
But I think if we continue to do that,